Hey, Coach Worley, Joe Icono with GBK. How are you doing today?
Hey Joe, how are you? I'm good. I'm doing great.
Good, good. Nice win over Tulsa. I asked this question to Coach Monken today, but I don't think I worded it that great. So let me try and do a better job with you tonight. The One of the things we've noticed on multiple weeks is that you guys have had multiple 100-yard rushers across the board. Against Tulsa, you had two 100-yard rushers in Bryson Daly and Kanye Udo, as well as a 100-yard receiver in Noah Short. Knowing that all three phases of the option game and even the fourth phase in the play action are working really well, how much freedom does that give you as an offensive coordinator to know, okay, if the defense is really focused on stopping the fullback, which it seemed like Tulsa was in the first half, I've got these other options, and the other options are really, really good.
Yeah, I think to your point, when we discuss it all the time is we have to be equipped and capable of taking what the defense has given us. And I think, I thought that they had a great plan to start and did a really good job, throwing us off, keeping us off balance. But we were able to get to some things early on to take advantage of how they were playing us, and I would consider that they were pretty reckless in the secondary. They committed to stopping the run. They had a team plan of how they wanted to attack us in all three phases. They kind of wanted to play our brand of football on the other side of the ball, and they wanted to make sure that they were going to stop the run. And we were able to hit some big passes, obviously in the first half to kind of soften them, and then get other aspects of the game going, especially in the second half with some of our gap scheme runs with the fullbacks, and could have taken advantage of some things on the perimeter. And we did at times, but just having the flexibility of getting to all the phases of what we're capable of doing, and what we'll continue to do week to week in game planning to make sure that when defenses are taking something away, that we're fully capable of trying to execute at a high level with what they're giving us.
And one of the things that's kind of been made a point of emphasis, right? A lot of times when you guys come out first series, you don't know how the other team's going to line up to defend you. It might be something different than they've shown on film, maybe against the other academy or something like that. So you're not 100% sure, but you guys are able to make immediate adjustments because of the tablets that are available on the sideline and to you in the booth. How important has that advancement been for you, and how much does that help you adjust quicker in game?
Well, I think it's huge because when we build our system, and especially in the summer and during certain sections of summer and spring and camp, we work everything that we've seen over the years and really compile every look that we've seen out of defenses. So I think it's really important that our guys understand the crux of what we're going to do, no matter how they align. So they know the home base. All right, they lined up in this. I know coach is going to get us to this set of plays and how we attack a structure. But then having the iPads and being able to basically have a mini position meeting on the sideline during series is critical because you don't miss anything. And then you get direct feedback. You don't have to rely on them as much. You don't have to rely up in the box of taking a snapshot or a picture. You can watch it with them. And so it's certainly been beneficial with the coaches being able to have position meetings on the sideline and say, hey, this is a wrinkle we're going to get to. I know you guys remember this concept. This is what we're going to do and why. And I think that's just critical from the preseason and our kids understanding how we're going to attack, and then really just the overall understanding of our system and how the rules apply and how things work. I think it shows up week to week, but then being able to utilize the tablets has been a critical advantage.
And my follow-up and final question, Cody, is when you look at the three B backs who have been getting a chunk of the reps, Kanye, Hayden, and Jake Rendina. I know you said you were going to kind of fit your offense to the strengths of your personnel, and clearly you've been able to do that. What would you say is the number one strength for each of those three guys?
I think Kanye is a really, really talented kid with the ball in his hands, and he's a guy that continues to show up, and there were a couple of plays that were blocked as well as you can block them. But for him to hit 21 miles per hour on the GPS and run away from defenders, that was really the first time I've gotten to see him do that. And it's a tribute to his hard work in practice. But he's a dynamic player with the ball in his hands, and he's gotten better without it. The first touchdown pass we threw, he had to abort his fake and go pick up a corner fire, which we talk about and we rep, but that's not extensively into his repertoire of what we do during the week. But he applied his rule, and he did a really good job picking that up. And aborting his fake, and Bryson obviously finding Noah, but he's continued to get better without the ball. But certainly his strength is with the football, and I think Rendina is a guy that is capable of both. He shows, he can be a guy between the trenches that can push piles and get some gritty yards on inside runs. But he's got to pride himself without the ball as well, and I think he does take a lot of pride in being a lead blocker and being pass pro. On another touchdown pass that Noah threw, he cut the edge defender, which was a critical block on that play. So I think he's continued to get better with the ball and his fits, and he prides himself without the ball. And then Hayden, you can do anything. Hayden is an elite ball catcher. He's a great route runner, as you saw in the game. That was a really good throw and catch on the sideline on the wheel route, but he's a guy that's dynamic in space. He's got a burst. He's really fluid. So he's a guy that we've got to continue to find ways to get the football to, because like Kanye, he's dynamic with the ball in a variety of ways. But he's a guy we got to continue to game plan to get him the ball.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Cody, Ken McMillan from The Record.
Hey, Ken, how are you?
Good, thank you. Hey, Cody, just to follow on what Joe was mentioning, you had a plan, obviously, when when Tulsa started to slow you down. I'm just curious, as a competitor, do you kind of like sit up there in the booth, go, "Oh yeah, are you going to do this? Oh, let's try this." I mean, what's kind of like your mindset, your attitude?
I think you identify pretty quickly how their mentality and what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to stop, and really their overall mentality going into the game. And I think sometimes teams feel like when they force us to do certain things that we have to, the old cliche is you got to beat us left-handed. I think when we're able to be efficient in the pass game and do concepts that we've been working since the summer, I think that we've got to be able to effectively do those things. And whether it's the perimeter game, whether it's the inside run game, whether it's change ups, whether it's auxiliary run game, whether it's pass game, we've got to be able to get to those things and execute them. And that's what I was most proud of, is us being able to not flinch and say, all right, this is how they're playing us. And we've prepared for that in the past, or prepared for certain game plans. And we've got to make sure that we can execute whatever that we decide to call, and get to those calls. And I was just really pleased that our guys were able to do that, not flinch, and, not let them dictate what we're capable of doing, and just executing what we call and do it at a high level.
Cody, you guys have scored on your first possession 5 games in a row, and second possession 4 times. What is making you guys so effective so early in the game?
I think it's really hard for defenses to simulate what we do during a week of practice. I think you have a scout team, and you have timing, and you have different things that you're trying to simulate, and you work really hard at that. But until you get into the game, it's hard to adapt to the speed of the game. I think maybe that attributes to it, to be honest. And then I think just execution. It's one of those things we pride ourselves on, of coming out and expecting, different things that they're going to throw at you. Maybe not what we game plan, maybe what we game plan, but just being able to adapt and get to our core and be able to execute. And our guys have done a great job, of just doing their job. I don't think they don't see it as, all right, it's the first drive, we got to score. I think they see it as, oh, this is how they're aligning. This is how they're defending us. Let's go do our job with great fundamentals and execute. So, I think a lot of it is coincidental, to be honest, but I think you look at our execution, you look at how guys are coming out with urgency. And one thing, I think our guys are confident. They expect to be able to move the ball, but for us to come out and not flinch and do our job. And it's shown up, but it's got to continue. You know, we're at some point, somebody's going to do something different, you know, and we've got to be able to adjust and overcome. But I've been really proud of how they've approached each and every drive, but especially when a game starts and setting the tone.
What does UAB bring defensively that you have to face this week?
They're incredibly athletic across the board. I would say they're probably the most athletic unit we've played, up to date at every level. The first level, second level, third level. They've got a slew of transfers and guys that are really long and talented and athletic. So, you know, that really forces us to be really good fundamentally and not invent new techniques. And because they may play erratic or they may do things that are, you know, maybe out of what we're accustomed to, and we've got to just do our job. And we've got to continue to do our job and trust our fundamentals and not let how they're playing dictate our play.
You've been, I'm sorry,
No,
you've been leading Bryson Daly since he got here. I've asked some of the guys about him behind the scenes, but I want to ask you, you've seen his growth literally and figuratively. Tell me about the Bryson that you once knew to what you see now.
well, he's a grown man now. You know, I mean, it really is like his approach, the way he leads, the way he takes care of his body, the way he prepares. You know, everything is professional. He's a pro, and he's been doing it a long time. And you know, he's in love with the game of football, and it shows up. He's a phenomenal teammate, a great leader, a competitor. You know, everything that you want. And you know, I think right now is the biggest thing is he's very confident, in his ability to do his job and execute. You know, and I stress to him every week that there's certain things every week that we watch the film and he's critical of himself and he takes coaching and he doesn't buy into the rat poison and the awards and all the, you know, he knows that he's got to continue to climb and get better. But, you know, he's a professional in everything that he does. And, you know, he's a guy that's accepted that responsibility and it shows up in his age and his maturity. And he's played a lot of football.
Max D said he dresses poorly.
That's between Max. I don't know. I don't know about that, but I know that on game day he shows up.
All right. Last thing, left field question. You obviously been going to West Point games for a long time now. Other than the game itself, what's your favorite aspect of West Point home football Saturday?
Well, I think just the atmosphere and being able to play in Mikey Stadium, you know, I never take that opportunity for granted, and I know our kids don't as well. But you know, just having the cadets there, you know, the flyover, you know, that so there's some things that never get old, and that's something that never gets old. You run out, and even though we have construction, you have the big plaque sign that we all touch when we head out. We run out with the black flag, you know, we run through the core, and then we have the flyover. I mean, there's nothing like a home game at Mikey Stadium, and I know our guys, they love playing at home. They love playing in front of the home crowd, but you never take that opportunity for granted. You know, it's a special place to coach, special place to play, and I love each and every Saturday.
Thanks, Cody.
Thank you, Ken.
Hey, Cody, it's Sal from Black Eye Nation. I had one question for you about the execution Tulsa game. I think it was five touchdowns, only 18 plays within those 5 touchdown drives. I'm wondering if it came across when you were watching, you know, the film back on that game and how high you were executing and what you thought about that.
Yeah, you know, I think one of the things that, you know, typically, and everybody says that it's you know, that wasn't a typical Army drive or a typical Army performance. You know, I think it's our responsibility to execute and score. And sometimes, you know, and we've talked about it in the preseason, if we score in 2 plays or we score in 18 plays, you know, that's the goal. But, you know, it was really good to see the halftime adjustments, to see how our guys adjusted to the front and how they were playing us, and trusting their coaching and their fundamentals and just being able to execute at a high level. You know, and it's something that shows up in practice. You know, we do inside drill against our defense every Tuesday and Wednesday. And sometimes if you were at the inside drill, you wouldn't have seen quite the execution. that at times you've seen in games, but that's our opportunity of getting better, you know, and it shows up in practice. And I think our guys attack practice. They attack every week. It's a unique challenge. And just being able to see them execute at a high level and apply their fundamentals and continue to get better at straining to finish and playing through the echo of the whistle. Those are the things that continue to show up, and, you know, you praise them for. And those are the things that we got to continue to hang our hat on, because we got to be a black flag unit. And whether it's 1 play, 2 plays, or 20 plays, that's got to be our mentality and our culture.
I appreciate it. Good luck on Saturday.
Thanks, Sal.
Cody, John Churan from CanVets Media. Could you talk a little bit of how you see the challenge presented by UAB? Any specifics out there that are worrying to you?
Well, I think, again, just like we talked about earlier, just their athleticism, their length. You know, we say they're erratic at times. You know, they'll try to beat blocks underneath. You know, sometimes they'll feather, sometimes they don't. You know, they really, every snap is different, and that's what we stress to our guys. You know, just because they did something on the snap before doesn't mean they're going to do it again. So we've got to be fundamentally sound. You know, we got to execute and do our job. But, you know, every play is a unique play, and it's 1 play, 1 play, 1 play, 1 play. It's a series of 1 plays. You know, so we've got to do a good job of stressing that and executing and doing that as players. But they present challenges in a lot of different ways. You know, they're going to be multi-front. They're going to play. You know, they play long. They're athletic. They beat blocks. You know, they do a good job of running to the football, playing physical. So they present challenges at each level.
Thanks, Coach.